All right, my name is Rich Schmidt. I'm here with Calli Daly and Deven Morganstern at their home in McMinnville. It's June 22nd, 2021. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Of course.
Today. The first and biggest question to get started is why wine?
Oh, I mean, other than it's delicious.
That was my first thought.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's something that you get to bring to a table and share with people. It tells a story of a place and a person and multiple people at a time. It's just fun to share.
Well, let's talk about lives before wine. Calli, we'll start with you. Tell me about upbringing, education, background before wine.
So I'm from the Northwest. I have a degree in forestry management. I work for a large paper company, so I don't use my degree, but I know what they do. I'm a lobbyist for a paper company, so I've always been involved in policy and politics. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for almost 10 years and did political work there. I've done political work in Idaho, and have always just been really just curious about how big policy statements can either boil up to something bigger or boil down to something smaller, and just what that means. And most of the time I don't have an opinion one way or the other. Maybe that's what makes me a decent lobbyist, is I can take any side and work it. But it is also knowing more about who your audience is and what they need to hear and understand. It's not necessarily, they may or may not actually care about your issue. It's just how do you get them to care about the issue. And I've actually found, I wasn't in wine until I met Deven. So as I've learned more about wine and the storytelling that happens with wine, I've found it amazing in how there's a lot of crossover and about how you talk about a product, how you talk about a story. It's probably a rough comparison to compare wine to a paper mill, but it is though about helping people, I think, to understand or to see how you start with this one small thing over here, mm-hmm. and how you turn it into something over here. Mm-hmm. And that at the end of the day, it is not an objective process, but very much a subjective process. And that if you like something, great, explore that. If you doesn't matter. That's okay, go explore something else. And that's the same thing with, oddly, it's the same thing with manufacturing. So I've enjoyed seeing those crossovers. But I settled in Portland about a decade ago, and through mutual friends, Deven and I met, and I'll let him tell his story from there. Because life began.
Right, everything just starts right there, right? Yeah. The before period was dark.
It was dark. You were lost.
No, I would say I'm from the Northwest for the most part. I was born in Georgia. Both my folks were in the Army, so I was actually born at Fort Benning, Georgia. But moved to Salem early. I mean, I was still in elementary school. So grew up in Salem, went to the University of Oregon. I also have degrees that I don't use on a daily basis, which is probably a theme of the
many of us
mid-20s. Yeah.
Yes.
So I studied political science and anthropology. Actually got to the University of Oregon through music, so I played the tuba all through middle school and high school. I was decent enough to be able to play at the University of Oregon. Switched my majors partway through, again, just kind of lost soul, not really knowing what he wanted to do in the world. Graduated, moved to Indianapolis and worked for my fraternity for a year traveling around the country, which was a great experience right out of school, like just bag in the car, driving around. My region was the Northeast, so part of the world that I'd been in. My grandparents lived in Connecticut, so I spent every summer with them in middle school and high school. So I knew that part, but I didn't really know the rest of the Northeast. So it was kind of fun to see so many new things just driving around the country.
Well, I did something similar for my sorority when I got done with school, so that was another kind of shared connection of traveling, living out of your suitcase and then burning it when you got done after traveling.
Right, exactly. Seeing a lot of college fraternities and how different it was from my own experience.
Yeah.
old schools and how interesting they are.
Yeah, all the pros and cons.
Yeah, but no, landed back in Portland. Kind of worked through some sales jobs, so things that I was good at, but nothing that I was really terribly excited about. I just never really found that thing. And then in 2011, I was working for a real estate development firm. In that time, things were getting pretty slow in that world. So I kind of worked myself out of a job by summer of 2011, and happened to have met and started kind of communicating with Miguel Lopez from Walnut. At the time, he was at Walnut City Wineworks. But this is right when, I guess Twitter was getting cool. I guess that's dating me a bit. But businesses were finally starting to use things like Twitter to reach out to customers, and I had started a conversation with Miguel through this. Met him for a tasting, really enjoyed the wines. So when I got to that point where I really didn't know what I wanted to do next, I just reached out to him to see, I know harvest is coming up at some point. I have no idea when it starts. Do you know anyone who needs some help? And he sent me a list of maybe a dozen different wineries that he would talk to. I called every one of them, and Rob Stuart just happened to be the first person that called me back. So that was I interviewed with Rob while he was bottling one day. So I was standing next to him on the bottling line. He was paying attention to 6 other things. We chatted for maybe 30 seconds, and he told me to show up the next day.
Do you know Rob very well? So all this is just classic Rob. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's all not expected.
This is something I haven't asked you. Did you know what harvest was, or did you know what it meant when you said, "Hey, I want to go help with harvest"?
No clue. Okay. Right. I thought I'd be just out there picking grapes. You moved from one place to another. Again, at that point, I knew that I was interested and passionate about food. And wine was a part of that for me. So
that's kind of the anthropology side of you too.
Yeah. But wine, beer, food, all that stuff that kind of talks about social connections and kind of getting people together, creating a community space, kind of thing. All that was interesting to me. I knew that being a chef was going to be far too much work. The hours are terrible. Those guys and gals work way too hard, and that wasn't going to be for me. I enjoy cooking. I wouldn't enjoy doing that every day. Yeah. So I thought that, I've always been in sales. Maybe selling beer or wine or something would be my thing. And then I honestly worked the first week of that harvest and was sold. That's what I wanted to do.
What sold you?
To be honest, being a part of the Stuart's crew and being in that environment is a really easy place to want to be and stay. They do such a good job of making you feel like part of their family that even after that first week, during harvest, every night we would stop work at 7:30, 8 o'clock, regardless of what was happening. And go to the Stuart's house for dinner. And Maria would make this giant spread for all 15 or 20 of us. And you would sit down and have family dinner together. And then if you had to go back to work, great. You then packed up and went back and finished the night. To
be fair, sometimes it's whoever's the least drunk, most sober.
Right, exactly. Whoever decided they were the ones going back.
Right, yeah.
So there'd always be a little more of a skeleton crew after dinner. We'd lose some people for sure. Maria is a gracious host like that.
She is. At harvest dinners, they're always pulling out wines from either past vineyard or past vintages, or we're having sort of a French dinner tonight, so we're going to have some French wines. And there's it's not just the family dinner, but it's also just the experience of, well, let's try something different, and why do we like this, and why does it pair with this food? And it's also just some kind of, they throw in a little learning at the same time.
Oh yeah, and again, just being around them you want to be a part of that.
The stories, the songs, it's good when the guitar comes out.
Right.
So.
No, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids, so that big sort of table dinner, big family thing was something that I always craved. I'm not terribly close with my family these days, so having that experience now really, again, was something that, like, I can do this and get paid for it, and like, this is great. Why would I be anywhere else?
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough 2011 was a relatively late start harvest and a long extended one for us. So, a 2 or 3 week part-time harvest gig turned into a 3 or 4 month harvest gig because I was the last person to stick around. So it was me, Rob, and the assistant winemaker at the time. And then after that work ended, I kind of started transitioning in the tasting rooms and just doing whatever work I could do to stay in this area. So I was still living in Portland at the time, but knew this is where wine was happening and my connection to it was here. So I wanted to stay in it as long as I could and kind of explore it around and see, now that I know this place is for me, where do I fit into it? Mm-hmm. Again, my background was all sales at the time, so that's naturally where I was going. At some point, I got connected with Sam Tannehill, and he was nice enough to have a little informational interview with me before I really got into things. And that's basically what he told me. Is like, your background's all in sales. You should go into sales. Like, try some tasting rooms, check it out. And while that was really fun, the back side of the winery was always more interesting to me. The production side, and then eventually now the kind of pricing, business side of the industry, like how we can create growth, how we can, pull in some more market, how we can create more opportunities for other people by growing our business. I'm not necessarily wanting to be the face of anything. I enjoy stepping back and kind of building a structure that other people can do that, for sure. But yeah, the Stuarts gave me a great opportunity right out of the gate, and it was hard not to stick around for that.
Well, so you went and did some sales stuff, but then you got reconnected with the Stuarts a year later?
A couple years later.
Yeah.
So I guess my industry trajectory, I started Harvest in 11. I then bounced around a few tasting rooms. So I worked for the Stuarts in their tasting room on 3rd Street. I worked for Enemy part-time. So I kind of just cobbled together a bunch of part-time tasting room gigs to keep myself busy and enough money to pay the bills. 2012 came back around. I went back to the Stuarts and worked full-time Harvest.
Again.
2013, I then jumped back in tasting rooms, did all that stuff. Eventually I got a full-time tasting room job at Sokolblasser. So I actually got to be at Sokolblasser when they opened their new tasting room that first year. So kind of fun working with everyone there to figure out what that new space actually was going to be. I think everyone had an idea of what it was, but then being in it every day, having customers in there every day, it completely changed the whole feel and thought of that building. And it continues to evolve into more and more stuff today. But being there for that first year was super fun. And seeing kind of that, just having access to that history of not only like the people there, but the wine that they had there and being able to try some. It's the first time I was able to try, 1980s Oregon Pinot, like something that I didn't think was a thing. And then you're trying these things like, why don't people drink these wines more? These are amazing. It's because there aren't a lot of them. Right, they're hard to get and they're really expensive. But it was a great education and kind of solidified that this is definitely where I wanted to be. And then out of the blue, this Rob and Maria reached out to me and just wanted to have a talk. And they basically created a full-time position out of someone leaving a part-time position for me to come back. So January 1st, 2014, I moved back and started full-time again with the Stuarts.
Tell me about the work from first harvest. Tell me about the work. Obviously, you mentioned kind of the big family atmosphere and the welcoming environment. Tell me about the work itself. Obviously, not glamorous work. So, what about it appealed to you?
No, and that was the fun part of it. Is there's this idea of winemaking, especially and grape growing as well, being glamorous or just kind of like, you're cruising around just tasting wine all day and pontificating over things. But the reality is it's mostly janitorial work. I mean, it's cleaning and using something and cleaning it again and moving stuff from here to there. And just that process and like working with my hands and getting dirty in it, knowing I'm part of the process of making this thing that I'm eventually then going to be able to share with someone, is super, super fun. But yeah, I mean, the day-to-day work is really just, forklifting stuff around, a lot of manual labor. I mean, we make a good amount of wine at our Stuart and Company, but we make it all just like we would make 50 cases of wine. So everything's still 1-2 ton fermenters. Everything's kind of hand punched down. We have a very small destemming machine, so it's a lot of hours on the forklift and standing up on the catwalk destemming fruit and pushing it around. We do a lot of racking and returning wine during harvest. So Rob really focuses on managing tannin. He doesn't really like a lot of it in his wines. So red wines will, start fermenting. It'll get to a point where the grapes are starting to break, seeds are falling out the bottom. We'll actually try to get all the seeds out of that fermentation we can through a screen system, let the wine sit for a while, put it back in there. We'll do that a couple times during fermentation. So it's just a lot of touching every wine every day, all while more wine's coming in, we're pressing wine, we're barreling wine. But yeah, it's just a constant rotation for about a month and a half of picking, because Rob's also known for starting very late and ending very late. He'll let grapes stay out there for a long time, and over 20 years, it's shown to be a good a good technique. But the harvest extends for us a little bit, even though we're really only working with Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris Chardonnay. We're not getting into too many of those bigger varietals that tend to hang out there longer.
Well, we met in 2014. My first harvest helping, I would come down on the weekends and do whatever somebody told me to do, because I'm still just learning and I didn't want to break anything. And so we had another kind of crossover moment again with Sam Tannehill. So through his work just representing the industry in Oregon, he's also very involved with the Oregon Business and Industry Association, which I am also very involved in. And I can remember coming in hot to a meeting one morning that we were both at, and I hadn't experienced anything else except how Rob makes wine. So my hands were a little purple because I had done punch downs the night before, hadn't quite gotten clean, if you will. And so I'm talking with Sam for a few minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, see, my hands are purple. And he's kind of looking at me like, why would you do that? I didn't understand at all of how big his production is, or how different his operation is, or how different it is from one thing to the next to the next. And
so Calli, there's machines for that.
And that's pretty much
you don't have to do this on your own.
So then, a week or so later, when I had again been doing punch downs and can't lift my arms, and I think I had used that line back at you, like, you know what? Somebody said that there was machines for this. Can we, you're the money guy. Can we invest in this in some way, some form? And I was teased about the we invest, and do you know what those machines are? No clue. It's always then now kind of been a little bit of a joke as we go along, of just like, could you at least even get me like a better stool so I have better leverage? And can we just have it be my stool, because there's only one that I like, because I'm not tall enough for these 2-ton bins, because they come up here and I'm trying to, anyway, it's always entertaining. And I don't know why either one of us who, we don't like to do yard work. We don't like to do a lot of manual things, but yet harvest comes around and, work out a little differently before harvest. We try and eat a little bit better because of just all this, I don't know, maybe it's just this addiction to that kind of work. Maybe it's the fact that you can see a beginning, a middle, and then something in a bottle, an end.
I'm curious from your perspective, since you met someone who was already had the wine bug. Tell me about catching it for yourself and about kind of your impressions of both Deven's work and of the industry that you were getting to know.
Oh, great question. I think, like Deven, I was very attracted to this community. It wasn't about a product, it was more about a community. And, to see how much more Deven becomes himself when he is around these people. He talks about not wanting to be the face of anything, or he doesn't really want to be hosting people, but yet where he feels most comfortable is when it is, a room full of people. And, I don't know that I ever thought as much about the wine as much as it was more about just the community side of it.
And tell me about, for both of you, sort of the idea of wine education. Obviously, you're learning on the go. So tell me about developing your palate and developing the knowledge you need to understand flavor profiles and tannins and all those kinds of things. How long does it take, and how did you do it?
Oh, I think it's a continuing process. Like, it never really ends, right? I started in wine with the Stuarts, and I'm still there, right? So again, Rob's way of making wine is kind of the way I know. I've seen a few other things these days, but we joke that we very much have like a house palate, and it's Rob Stewart's house.
The worst houses.
Exactly. No, it could be a ton worse.
Yeah. But when you can make a comment like, "Oh, Rob's not going to like this wine," it does make you kind of step back and go, "Okay, I need to think through this a little bit more. Why don't I like it, or why do I like it, or why do I think Rob's going to like it?" And I like that process of just kind of thinking through it. I know for myself and my palate, I'm still very new to all of this, so I'm still just trying to even understand what the words are or why they're using those words. And that I find interesting, of just trying to unpack all of those things. Even when Deven will say, "Oh, so your word is interesting." This is interesting.
Right, that's how I'd pause and take a break and be like, okay, what else am I going to say about
what
this?
level of interesting is it? Is this going to go down because he doesn't like it, or go up because he does like it? So what's in there, and what does that mean? Why is he pausing?
Yeah, just being in the valley, there's so much around us, and there's so many opportunities to try all these wines. So fortunately, I think I just like all wine. I enjoy making sparkling wine and Pinot Noir, and that's why working for Rob is a great place for me, because he does both of them extremely well. But just seeing something new on the shelf and grabbing it and just having access to that here is incredible. Or just all the events we can go to.
Yeah.
Like, I'll volunteer to pour wine at anything.
Yeah.
And that's really how I met a ton of people outside of the winery I worked at and tasted a lot of those wines. Is I would volunteer at IPNC, I would volunteer at Bounty of the County. Anywhere that they needed a hand that had an OLCC license, I would jump in, because I knew that meant other folks in the industry that I wouldn't see every day, and other wines that I wouldn't see every day.
Well, since moving to McMinnville, so it's only been 6-7 months now, we are, and now that things are starting to open back up, at least once a month, we're trying to pick a different winery and go do a tasting. We're not making it a day, but just, you take those back roads up to Beaverton and you see all these tiny little labels that you haven't heard of, or some really big labels, don't get me wrong. And, it's stuff that we don't have a lot of access to. So let's go do make an appointment, go do a tasting and see what's there. Taste, feel, touch.
Right, just be a consumer.
Just be a consumer of it.
Yeah. And especially, this is 10 years now for me. I think at first going to tasting rooms was really, really exciting, because it was all just exploring things. And then, you hit that little lull where you're just then working and kind of out of that. So I'm now kind of trying to get back into that discovery phase of just what's here. I had a very Oregon-centric education to start. The Stuarts are great at pushing everyone to do a little more education. So I went up to the Wine and Spirits Archive and went through the WSET series. That obviously opens you up to a lot outside of this world. So getting into European wines, finding some of those things that have parallels that you really enjoy, or stuff that is just completely bonkers, like, wait a minute, what is this, and why, can we do that here?
Right, this is fun.
Yeah, that's why we started 2 years ago making a Dornfelder.
Yeah.
Just because I had a bottle of it, it was super interesting. I then went and learned a little more about it. It grows where Pinot grows, so why don't we do that here? And then found one of our vineyard owners that we've worked with forever had just a row of it planted, and he'd been just making garage wine out of it. So trying to talk him into taking all of that from him because it was just one row. Lee doesn't make his garage wine anymore, but we get to put a label on it and take it out to people and show it off. So hopefully he'll plant some more.
I think that conversation with me started, we'd done Joyful a couple years at that point. Hey, I got this idea. I want to do some Dornfelder. I don't know what that word is. I don't know what you just said. Start over. So that was a fun kind of just exploring, and I don't know, you brought home, 4 or 5 different kinds of Dornfelder, labels of Dornfelder.
Yeah. At that point, you just start running around and buying anything you can find and explore it a little bit. And so trying to do more and more of that, find new places, find new people making wine. One of the cool things about the Oregon industry, and it might be other places, but obviously I know this, is that there are folks like me who will work at one place, but then on the side there's room to do something experimental or different. And running around trying to find those one-off, hopefully not one-off, but more unique, smaller production kind of things, and see what, business-wise, it's hard for someone not to make a Pinot Noir around here, right? That's just where our dollars are right now.
What else?
But will that be the case in 10, 15 years? With this kind of experimentation happening, maybe not. That could definitely push a market in a different place and diversify us a bit. And, that's generally, as history tells us, a good thing to be a little more diverse and not a monoculture.
Right.
So finding those things now and playing with them and kind of using almost this safe space of being small as a place to experiment is a really exciting part of the industry right now.
Well, on that note, let's talk about Joyful Noise and tell me about the genesis of it. And once you decided on it, take me through the steps of actually getting it off the ground.
The process was long. So we started in 2014. So I'd come back to the Stuarts. 14 was my kind of first harvest back with them after a 1 year off. But 2014 was a vintage where we were estimating pretty heavy yields, but I think we only got one of our dozen vineyards that we work with right. Everything else was way over. Even the big estimates weren't enough, and fruit just kept coming in and kept coming in. And that was the very first year we had also started working with the Lazy River Vineyard in Yamhill. So as all these grapes just keep coming off the truck, Rob and I are both looking at each other like, where's all this going?
What are we gonna do?
Because when our Stuart makes their single vineyard programs, we're talking 100, 150 cases, and then everything else will go into some stage of a Willamette Valley blend, depending on the quality and kind of what we need in that blend.
But you were getting enough grapes for
oh yeah, there was far more grapes than we were ready to sell at that point. Yeah. So Rob just kind of looked at me and asked me if I wanted some of them to do something different. And that's that's exactly where it started. And then he told me if I was going to do it, I had to do something. We couldn't just make our Stuart wine and put it in a different label. We needed to do something different with it. Think about what you want to do, but here's here's a ton of grapes and these are yours.
And Rob has never said, I've always wanted to try and make wine this way. But when you see Deven and Rob talk about it, Deven's got a question and Rob's helping him think through some of the process or something. You see Rob's brain going and kind of clicking along going, well, if I was going to play with something different, this might be a fun way to do it. So it's almost like they're living through one another a little bit.
Yeah, just again, like, it's a safe space in a small winery world to be able to experiment with some things and see, like, maybe there's some technique that we could scale up and do something bigger.
Yeah.
So that year, we got a ton of Lazy River, Wadensville Pinot. Tasting it and looking at it, it had a ton of structure to it. It was really dark in color, lots of tannin, like very different than Pinot I had ever worked with, and very different than Rob even had ever worked with. So I thought that it would be nice to keep that structure and build on it a little bit. Rob doesn't really like new oak at all. I mean, we have 500 or 600 barrels. We generally buy them all used from Christum and bring them up. But he, from the Erath days, has a relationship with a cooper in France, a small family, the Gelée family, and he'll still buy 2 or 4 barrels from them every year just because he has that relationship with them. And that's, again, the kind of guy Rob Stuart is. But normally we would just put kind of our entry-level wines into those barrels, and Rob, says he's seasoning them. So he wants to use them for a couple of years, get those barrel tones out, and then we put them into regular rotation. So I snagged one of those brand new barrels, and we did 2 neutral French oak barrels from the Gelée family, 1 brand new one, and just kind of stepped out of Rob's comfort zone a little bit, and let's make a single vineyard reserve level wine with a tiny bit of new French oak, and just see if you like it. So we did that 14, 15. So now we're into 2016. The 2014 is ready to bottle. Have no idea what we're going to do with this wine. We have no name yet. We have no package.
So like I said, we met in 14. I started playing around more with getting involved more with the wine in 15. So he kept saying, I've got this idea, I've got this project, and what about a label? What about this idea? And what about this? And then there was a lot of just entertaining ideas about, well, what if we did it this way, or what if we put penguins on it?
Oh,
that was my favorite.
They were bad. Yeah, like critter wine, bow ties. I mean, it was
it was bad. So
labels off the printer. I mean,
right.
it wasn't really
Right.
it wasn't really going very quickly.
So when I realized there really was like a couple of barrels, and he and Rob were, not that I didn't understand that they were serious, but for some reason I just suddenly had an awareness like, oh, this is gonna be real. We're gonna put something in a bottle. And maybe it was because I was still just new in the process, that I was still learning the start to end.
Right, and 70 cases is probably more than we can just drink on our own.
There was that. And okay, where is this gonna go? Is this gonna go in the garage? Wait, we gotta get rid of it. So I think this is then where the marketing side of me kicked in, and I connected us with one of, who is now one of Deven's good friends, a gentleman by the name of Zach Hyder, who owns a public affairs firm. At the time he was somewhere different, but he now owns his own firm, Hubble Communications, out of Portland. And we sat down with him, 4, 5, 6 times.
Oh yeah,
An hour at a time, and he just went through a branding process with us. And he would interview us, he would ask us different questions, he would give us homework, we'd have to come back, and eventually we got to this place where and there was a whiteboard and it was the whole thing. Eventually we just got to a place where he came back around and he said, I can't believe we kind of missed this, but we needed to go through this process. You guys actually said the name in our first session. So at the end of the day, we came back to, and you've already heard this a little bit as Deven talked, he likes the idea of a full room, happy chaos, a big table, a community, Again, being the oldest of 6, just kind of that, we can always find one more chair for somebody, and it's that feeling of joyful noise. And when you're sitting at a table, you don't want the table to be about the wine. You want that table to be about the food, the wine, the people. You want to walk away from this, and the next time you see a bottle of joyful noise, be like, oh gosh, remember that time that we went to so-and-so's house and we were doing this and we had this wine?
Right, remembering a place more than like, oh, I really like the structure of that wine.
Yeah. And so that's then how Joyful Noise came to be. Zach then connected us with a designer, Jimbo. And Jimbo he came up with all the colors and the different lettering. As we've done different vineyards, the single vineyards, he's come up with different colors for the different ones. Deven's played around with some sparkling. He's done all of that. He's been great. And this was also his first foray into designing wine. So it was also a great just learning opportunity for him about just the different shapes of bottles. I think one of his first designs was like on a cab bottle or something.
Oh yeah. Well, and just in general, teaching people like everything that goes into what has to be on a wine label. and what that process actually looks like.
Yeah, and he is, at the time he was on contract with a large company in Beaverton that makes shoes, and had been doing some special projects for them. And so this was also then just a good way to challenge his mind in a different way, because he was finding that while there was a lot of innovation, there was still a lot of rules because of the brand. And because we were just creating our brand, it let him just kind of explore a little bit. So that's been fun too, of being able to teach someone else about something that they know, but also teach them about wine too in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, basically Zach just locked us in a room and we came out with the name.
No offense to anybody who's got penguins on their label, but I'm just glad there's no penguins.
Yeah, again, it could have gone a whole different direction.
Yeah, he really wanted that. Really wanted that.
So with that, tell me about, now you, like you said, now you have this wine and now you have a name and you have a label. Tell me about the rest of it, the marketing of it, the selling of it, the growing the brand. What were the biggest things you had to deal with? What were maybe some of the surprises along the way, and what were the sort of the successful things you found?
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in the garage. We really do have to sell it.
No, I mean, that starts to get in the world that I'm then a little more comfortable, right? I mean, I know how to sell a wine. So we knew it was going to be small. I mean, we had 75 cases, and the plan was to always keep it kind of small. So we knew we obviously didn't have a tasting room. We didn't have space to host. So this was really going to be selling bottles to people we know, and then somehow meeting other people and growing that. So I built a website. We started taking photos of things, kind of did the social media side, and really sent an email out to our friends and just started there. So that first email went out and there was like crickets for a little while. And I was like, well, maybe we are going to drink all this. Like it's not impossible, just not good for us. And then sale here, sale there kind of started coming in on that. We just kept working those relationships, going out there, start getting into other tasting spaces. So, the winery previously known as Vista Hills, they did an Uncommon Wines Festival there for a while.
That's fun.
So we were able to get into the smaller producers and start pouring the wine, just kind of sharing bottles with people I knew. In 2011, so my first harvest, I worked with Michael Stiller from Tina's. So knew Michael. It was the first time walking into a restaurant trying to sell my own bottle of wine. But going and kind of doing those kind of things and finding different places to put the wine and get it out there in front of other people.
And I think that's been, Michael has had it on the Tina's menu for on and off
Since day one.
Since day one.
Yeah.
And I think what has been most rewarding about that experience is then having friends from the Valley or from Portland go to Tina's for dinner and then send you a picture or do their own post of, this is my friend's wine. And that's what makes it real to me, is when someone actually recognizes, oh, wait a minute, I know that label. So that, very grateful that Michael has kept us on his menu for so long.
Oh yeah, and just keeps bringing it back.
Yeah.
But it's just been slow engagement with our little circle of friends who then tell someone else about it and kind of bring them into the fold. And
I think we're still small enough that we don't know what we don't know, and we're not too worried about it either. I think we are trying to stay focused just on building the website, and as I go out and do my work trips, I'm always telling people, when we run out of work things to talk about, and oh, by the way, here, this is what my husband does, and we've, as a result, have kind of a small pocket of just random people following us, and we'll get. There's a couple on the East Coast that every once in a while we'll get an order from them. Do you know this guy? Oh, let me think about that. Oh yeah, I met him at that conference, and
Right.
he's steadily bought a couple of bottles here and there.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and
The guy
I
from New Jersey.
distinctly remember like the first time we got an order that neither of us knew.
Right.
You're like, wait a minute.
Who is this?
How did this person like go into the Google Analytics and try to see like there's a city that I've never been in,
Right.
or like where did this person come from?
Yep.
But I mean, that's kind of the future of it, is slowly growing that network out. Again, we don't own a vineyard, we don't own a winery, so it's finding those kind of spaces to slowly kind of build that little circle of friends and bring more people into it.
Yep. We had friends 2 weekends ago. They had Joyful Noises, their wine, at their son's graduation party, and a couple of people had asked him, where's this tasting room? This is great. How'd you find them? So he calls the other day and was telling me the story and says, so what do you do for a tasting room? Well, they can come by the house anytime I want.
Right.
I mean, we got a big table. If they want to try wines, I'll do whatever to try and sell wine in terms of introducing it to new people. But at the end of the day, we've been very blessed with not only Rob giving us the wine, but also then having a community of friends that have been willing to experiment, have liked it, and then will buy it for other people too. So
Right.
it's still just a very community, local, joyful noise kind of story.
It's a great name for a celebration wine. I mean, Joyful Noise is a great name for graduation wine. That's perfect.
Yeah. And we happened to just send out an email right before graduation that said 30% off, so it worked.
Even more perfect.
Even more perfect.
I'm curious about that feeling of finally having a wine with your name on it and presenting it to people you know and people you respect and people whose opinions matter to you. Tell me about that feeling and about the responses you got.
I mean, it's scary and fun all at the same time, right? I mean, you made this thing that you're hoping that someone really likes, and then just that anticipation of waiting and seeing what they think about it. But overall, I mean, I think we made a really great wine. I think the response is good. Some people just like it. Some people love it. Some people really resonate with that kind of fun, joyous sort of story of the label. It's definitely not a old school chateau sort of prestige bottle. So it's definitely intended to pop open and share, which is always funny when someone buys it and then they tell me they haven't drank it yet because they're waiting for some special occasion.
No.
It's like, I'll find you more wine. It's okay.
Yeah,
I know a guy. Just
drink
it, enjoy it. Like that's literally the reason we make it, is for you to just have a good time with it.
Yeah, I was about ready to say this isn't special, and of course everything you make is special. It's
special, but it's not
save it for some celebration. Just it's Thursday, celebrate that.
Right, that should be special enough.
Yeah.
But it did. We were able to sell some wine to Bandon Dunes, and I remember going down there. We we had sold a couple cases to them. We drove down a larger order and like stayed the weekend, had dinner there. And the server brought out a bottle of it because it was just it's their Pinot Noir by the glass at the time.
Mm-hmm. We weren't expecting this.
No, and totally like teared up a little bit. I mean, it was super, super cool to be like, I enjoy golf. I'm not terribly good at it, but Bandon Dunes is one of the prettier places in Oregon that you could spend some time at, even if you're not into golf. It's just gorgeous in that part of the state, and just have a wine there that someone's telling me about it, not knowing who I am, and was really excited about it. I mean, that's
like honestly excited about it. Have you tried this yet? You should try this.
Yeah, it's a pretty rad feeling.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't get much better than
Yes.
that, I don't think.
So then unfortunately, or as he's walking away, we get the giggles, and he kind of looks back at us and, no, come back, let us explain. We weren't,
Sorry, yeah.
we made
that
this
giggle
wine.
wasn't for you.
That
yeah.
giggle wasn't about you. It was just the experience we just had with you. So let us tell you about it. And then he got the giggles because he's like, oh, you guys make this. Well, how'd I do? Like, is that how you would describe it? Actually, yeah, you did great. So that was, I don't know, I don't think we'll forget that. That was probably the most surreal part.
Again, that's all the reason why you do it. I mean, it's a lot of work to get some grapes into a glass bottle.
Yeah.
So for someone else to enjoy it that way is...
Well, and I remember you telling me about when Rob first tried it, and just how, I don't know, it was just a moment where they were colleagues, and him giving some honest feedback, but also really liking what came out of this. So that's, I think, been also a memorable moment.
Oh yeah, and just sets up a little more confidence to be able to kind of keep doing that and explore a bit. So then the second wine we made was also a Pinot, but from a different vineyard, the Hershey Vineyard. Rob had never really done a lot of whole cluster fermentation at the time, so we decided to go that route, and Hershey seemed like a good place to do it. It was the right vintage, so this is 2017.
Well, we should share the pictures with you all of Deven doing the feet stomping of the whole cluster.
Right,
It was
which
his Lucy moment.
Everyone loves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can always jump into some grapes.
Yep.
Just someone will volunteer for that every day.
Yep, yeah.
They don't generally volunteer a second time, but they volunteer
first
at
time.
least once.
Yeah, the first time.
Yeah, but it just gives you that confidence to be able to keep doing that and to grow a little bit. So in that year, we doubled our production, took on 2 tons of grapes, got a little bigger. Unfortunately, selling that wine hit last year, so not an ideal time to double your production, but
Right.
obviously didn't know that in 2017.
But it's not been, as far as like the last year goes, and 2020's been, we have a website-based sales program, and so I don't think that we were hit as hard as maybe we thought we were going to be. People are still buying wine, thankfully, and things certainly slowed down just in terms of our most steady. The 2 entities that we have the best relationships with, between Bandon and Tina's, they both had to shut down for a while. But we've still been able to move some wine out. And I think that, now that we're feeling everything pick back up, we're seeing it pick back up, there's a lot of pent up demand, which, everyone's talking about. But it feels good to see all of the changes that are happening, and hopefully one of the things I'm hopeful of, something that sticks around after this last year or so that we've all been through, is having everyone kind of focus in more on what they do like and what they do appreciate. What are the little things that make me happy? And hopefully it is more of the, if they did buy a bottle of our wine, that's one of those things.
Oh yeah. But our model was built for something like this. I mean, home deliveries, loading up the car and doing a lap of 5 or 6 drop-offs around the area, being able to ship things, be able to do everything online. I mean, that's sort of where the industry is moving towards anyway. Everyone wants to shift their business mix more to DTC and shipping it online than wholesale distributor sales, just because those are becoming more and more challenging as distributors get bigger and more wineries get out there and smaller wineries kind of get edged out of that process. So we were lucky that, we could drive to some places and drop off wine, and people were still willing to spend a couple bucks and bring it into their house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned kind of how your Pinot had changed from year to year. What else have you changed, added? What else is in the rotation now for Joyful Noise, and what else are you looking ahead for as future varietals, future projects?
Yeah, well, we started experimenting with some sparkling wines. So, I've made basically a red sparkling wine out of Pinot Noir that has been a challenge, an experiment. We'll see if that ever actually comes to something. But
Good experiment.
yeah, we've made some rosé sparkling. We have the Dornfelder now.
We've had just rosé.
We've had still rosé. I think this year we're going to make a little bit of Pinot Gris. That's a grape that the market fell off for the last couple of years. I feel like it's starting to come back, but there's a lot of amazing Pinot Gris around here, and I'd like to jump on that wagon and kind of push that forward. And a lot of people already are, so it's definitely not me leading the charge by any means. But I will still go and buy a glass of Irie Pinot Gris anywhere I see it.
Absolutely.
So there's some amazing white wines out there like that, even though the focus right now is pushing the Chardonnay, which is fun too. There's some amazing Chardonnay here, but.
Well, and I really like Pinot Gris too, and not that we don't want to make something that the market isn't going to consume, but at the same time, I always want to make sure that we're making something that we still like at the end of the day. Because if it is going to just get stuck in the garage,
it's ours. Yep.
I want to be happy drinking it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about doing a Pinot Gris.
Yeah, no, and I'm hoping to expand on the Dornfelder a little bit more. That's a grape that I really enjoy making and drinking. It's interesting.
I like that one too. It's just so it's so rich.
Yeah, tons of color, but I mean, much like Pinot, really light in acidity, so it just kind of plays with your mind a little bit. Like you're expecting this big bomb of a wine, and it's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Just all color. But yeah, continuing to kind of play with that and slowly grow and expand it out as we find more places to place the wine and sell the wine. Kind of make a bit more of a well-rounded portfolio with, again, a couple whites, sparkling, a couple reds.
I think making the wine is the easy part and the part that we like, certainly. So we've got to figure out how to double down and focus on the actual selling of the wine, much like everybody else.
With a wine, particularly like Dornfelder, that most people may not have heard of or aren't familiar with, how do you go about introducing something like that to someone and getting them to be willing to try it?
Well, I mean, tasting events are kind of the place to do that. So trying to get ourselves into any of those that we can, and that's been the real challenge of this last year. That's the only way we get to grow. We don't have a huge online presence, so it's really getting in front of people or having friends share that wine. And if no one's able to get together, that definitely puts a wrench in it all. So, things like the Yamhill Valley Winery Association, they do a big spring tasting.
Is that the one coming up?
Mm-hmm. It's one in July.
Yeah.
But then just, again, getting out there and sharing it with friends, talking about it. I mean, wine's an easy thing to talk about with people, so
well, and
it comes up a lot.
Right, and I also kind of feel like this is where I can add some value of helping people to understand that maybe it's a word they haven't said before or heard of, but kind of translating it back to, this grows at the same elevation as a Pinot grape, just in Germany, and this is kind of their version of it. And first just try a sip, then let's talk about it.
Yeah, fortunately,
you're making it feel more approachable than just this big word that no one's heard of.
Yeah. Fortunately, it's a easy thing right now to sell someone the idea of trying something new, right? Like everyone's looking for something interesting, something small, something that.
Well, and the fact that it comes from literally one row of grapes.
Yeah, I mean it's
in the Dundee Hills. That makes it feel more approachable and local.
Yeah. And that's a fun part of all the wines we make. I mean, they're very specific to one place, and that's why we try to keep them small, because we're not even making whole vineyard blends. It's one clone, one block of one small vineyard. And if we're going to make more wine, we're going to find another very unique space to do that. There's an argument for sure that blending different pieces of different vineyards together will make a better wine, but keeping them separate like that is a fun way to explore what else is out there. Yeah. And there are already a lot of people making really awesome Willamette Valley blends or blends of just one vineyard. We don't necessarily need to do that. There's space to kind of make something smaller and different. And is it going to be a 1,000-point wine? I don't know that I care. It's nice to have that feedback. It definitely helps sell some wine.
Right.
But that's not necessarily what we're doing.
No.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about 2020 already, and about some of the ways you were prepared for it, sort of by accident and others. But let's talk about kind of the two-pronged attack of 2020. Let's talk about COVID first. Curious about sort of initial reactions, both personally and professionally, and what did you have to change last year to keep going, and what were some of the things you're going to take away from that?
Well, on the professional side, I worked for a company that makes toilet paper. So the first part of the shutdowns that we were all experiencing were something different, if you will, because everyone was feeling like it was a hurricane or a tornado. So there was the pandemic buying. And, but at the same time, the company also makes boxes. And in those boxes go things for schools or supplies for restaurants. So on one side, there's, we can't get enough, we're at capacity or more trying to make product. And on the other hand, we're not at capacity and struggling to figure out how to keep that mill running. Meantime, there's a lot of policy decisions about what essential workers are. So for me, the first part of 2020 was in some ways just kind of a blur, because I didn't know if I was coming or going, just in terms of trying to get information either to my mills or to policymakers about what we needed and what was important, and how safety has always been one of our priorities. So as they're making policy decisions about what, quote, is safe and how to keep people safe, trying to help them to understand what we're already doing. So then, to relate that back then to the personal life, as everything's being shut down and you're being told not to, have contact with people outside your house, I think for me there was a lot of just confusion and being overwhelmed like everybody else, and trying to just digest the information.
Oh yeah, no, it felt like Armageddon at that first few weeks, and between the garage full of toilet paper and full of wine, I thought we were gonna rule the neighborhood.
He says that because I had happened so if everything started in March, about October or November of the previous year, I had happened to be at the mill, and we were doing a health fair, and part of the thing or the encouragement for employees to come to the health fair is that they then got product if they participated in the health fair. Well, at the end of the day, there can be a lot of extra product left over, and I happen to have a big car, so I got loaded up with about 8 cases of toilet paper. So when he says that the garage was full of toilet paper, he really does mean between the wine and the toilet paper, we were
our neighbor's best friends.
We were
at
set.
that point. We were opening the garage and just.
All we needed was flour, and then we could have ruled
exactly.
the world.
Had everything.
Yeah, we would have had everything. But as I'm ebbing and flowing with my work, you're just ebbing.
Oh yeah, no. Again, those first month or two of that, it was really just up in the air. We have a really small team, but keeping them safe was pretty high priority. So I had gone from being in the office every day to barely coming in, not wanting to be responsible for getting anyone sick, or and then a big part of my job at our Stuart is the financial health of the company. So I'm doing all these projections, trying to figure out, well, if things all shut down, if they shut down for a month, this will look like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Doing those projections, it got pretty dark pretty quick, to the point where, I was laying myself off, like Rob was gonna have to do everything himself. He was gonna be the only employee around. Fortunately, it never came to those kind of things because our team was able to pivot pretty quick, and we figured out how to keep everyone on, use the tasting room as kind of a pickup location, order online sort of curbside space. We took tasting room staff and moved them out to the vineyards and started doing vineyard work because our vineyard management crew didn't have enough people. So it was an easy place just to move some payroll dollars and keep people around. And fun. It was able to teach them some vineyard stuff. We were all outside, so it was a safe way to kind of keep everyone engaged. But yeah, it was a little wacky there at first, trying to figure out how it was all going to look, and then just every week trying to come up with a new plan of what's different now, what can we do, what should we do, what's the right thing to do. So a lot of conversations trying to figure out where we could best put our resources.
Right.
I became an amazing grant writer, just with all the federal help, the state help, the county help. That all really allowed us to continue to kind of move forward with the winemaking side of it, because the glass still has to be bought, the screw caps still have to be bought. Like, we still have to kind of take care of those wines because they can't just be put on pause for a while. So we were able to kind of move stuff around, prioritize stuff, use new technology. So instead of going on ride-alongs with distributors and spending a week and a half, 2 weeks on the road visiting people, we're doing a day of it in the office, and Rob and I can kind of both be there at the same time. Rhea can jump into that. Our direct sales manager Casey can be on some of those. We can host big tastings without all the travel and time and infrastructure that took. So there's some things that will pop out of what we had to do last year that was actually a great business model that we'll continue to do moving forward, and just allows us even more time to build those relationships. And people are more comfortable with technology now, and it seems more normal. It's not like we're phoning it in anymore. Like, this is just, we get to see you more this way, as opposed to the once a year, twice a year visit to drive around in a car.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just ever changing kind of landscape there for the first year or so, or first 6 months or so. And we kind of figured out that new normal, and now we're going through it all again as things are starting to open back up. Again, what's the responsible way of doing that? How do we best take care of our employees? Do we need to go back to all of the way it was before? So it's not as scary as it was a year ago, but it's still definitely a transition point, and trying to figure out what the right move is and how does that feel. And
I'm curious, before I get to the next part of the question, looking at it from that perspective, what did you find yourself missing the most last year? I guess on a professional level, what about the yearly cycle of wine did you miss the most?
Not traveling was tough. I really do enjoy going out there and sharing this thing we made with people. Again, it's one of the more rewarding parts of what we do. But the biggest difference was probably harvest. Again, it's my favorite time of year. It's why I got into doing this.
Yep.
We normally, we're always a very small crew, but we bring in just volunteers and friends from all over the country generally to help us, and we weren't really able to do that this year. We weren't able to go to the Stuarts and have dinners. We couldn't really gather the same way we normally do, and it still happened. It was just smaller groups. Yeah, no, it was still a fun kind of joyous time of year, but it just wasn't the same, right? It just didn't have the same energy. No. Which, when you're working that hard, having that kind of fun, uplifting energy is a big part of that. So it just made things a little a little tougher. There was always like some specter of cloudiness there.
Well, and we moved right as harvest started, so that just added to the blur.
We did,
of it all.
yeah. So that was a big change for us
Yeah.
too. Moved from
So-
Portland to here, like the week harvest started.
Yeah, no,
Maybe,
and don't ever recommend selling or buying a house during a pandemic with the wildfires that had started in the middle of all that. Our real estate agent at one point, we're trying to get the paperwork done of buying this house, but she lives outside of Estacada, and the fire was coming in on her house, and she's trying to figure out how to evacuate horses and dogs and still help us sign our papers. And I was like, oh gosh, please just,
Yeah, we'll do this tomorrow.
we'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. So that packing, moving, and then you starting harvest. So that was,
Right, and normally
I
all
don't
those
ever want
harvest.
to do that again.
Yeah, normally all those harvest help hands all stay with us, or we at least feed them and show them a good time, and weren't able to do any of that stuff.
So it was just very different. I think we're all looking forward to this year, just even if it's different, having it be closer to normal.
Well, you bring up the fires, which is of course the second thing I was going to ask you about 2020. So tell me about, again, sort of like a real time, how did you, what was the first reaction? What did you have to alter about your work and about the decisions you had to make as the smoke rolled in?
Well, fortunately, Rob Stewart's a pretty even-keeled sort of guy, so there wasn't a lot of panic to it. Not necessarily something he had really dealt with before, but I mean, he knew enough to know kind of the process, or kind of what to start worrying about. So we didn't really react too quick. We kind of just watched and waited. We work with vineyards all over the valley, so there was definitely a potential one of them was going to have some problems. It just depended on how bad it all really got. There's really, we can't go out there and fight that fire. So all we can do is, help in any way we can until someone can get it out, and then we turn and see what we're working with.
But you don't work with growers that lost any acreage.
No. Everyone
So
we
that
worked
was
with was super lucky.
Super lucky. It was all just a matter of the smoke.
It's all just, it was all just smoke and what potentially that could have caused. So we learned as much as we could about all that really quick, but that science is still kind of being developed. What the high and low ends of that are, and where you really need to be worried.
I also feel like you guys got real lucky in that you didn't have a lot of smoke in the grapes.
No. Our only vineyard that was really kind of the hardest hit was Daffodil Hill, south of Amity. So it was kind of pretty close to where that fire was kicking out smoke.
And our grapes, we haven't seen anything in our Lazy or
Lazy
our
River, Hershey, that Yamhill area was pretty protected.
Pretty safe.
But we found a lab in Seattle that could do some phenolic work for us. We always go out and field sample early and actually bring all that back to the winery, crush it, and start small fermentations. Something about Rob's winemaking that I will always kind of pick up and take on is that he loves multiple yeast strains and just what that competition of yeast brings into a fermentation. So every vineyard we work with will take clippings just to see where the Brix and pH and all that jazz are. But we'll ferment all those as well and kind of keep them going as a pedicue, and eventually put them into the first grapes that come in and start our fermentations like that from all these wild starts. So eventually they all get mixed together, but we kind of keep them all individual as they're going. So we were able to send samples out for some early testing. Didn't really see anything. There's traces of some of those phenolics, but nothing that was over a limit that anyone's really worried about. We didn't really sense or smell anything. So in our vineyards, we were great. It did pop up some opportunities to help out some other growers. Mm-hmm. So there was a couple of folks that we kind of work adjacently with. So we've worked with a vineyard manager for a while. He manages another vineyard. That vineyard lost all their contracts. Someone backed out on them completely. We just told them to bring us the fruit, and if we can do something with it, we will. If not, we'll distill it in the brandy for you. Like, we'll send it off, have someone do that for you, and we can make you something you can sell, and we'll work out the price down the road. So we were able to do it with a couple growers that kind of helped them get grapes off the vineyard that didn't really have a home. And again, another thing that the Stuarts are really good at. We do a lot of these handshake deals with growers and just have long-term relationships that we both know what the price is, we both know what the deal is, and if it goes wrong one way for either of us, we tend to be accommodating to that and try to help out as much as we can. So as soon as we made this wine, tasted it, didn't see anything really wrong with it, was able to find a home for it in some other blends, we just asked what the price of the contract he lost was and paid that. So it opened up some opportunity for us to get some, what ended up being great fruit, but someone had to take a chance on it. And that's, I know for sure we're not the only winery around here that was able to do that, right? So it's again, one of the cool things about being in Oregon is that there's still that, we all know next year we're going to need each other. There are way more grape growers than winemakers. Someone needs to be growing those grapes. It's a totally different skill set, and there aren't a lot of people that can do both,
Right.
As well as we do it here.
Okay.
So, always looking towards next year and kind of getting through the one we're in. It's a very Oregon wine industry sort of thing.
Sort of thing. Well, and I know, throughout this, as we've talked about having this conversation with you, that you've wanted to talk about joyful noise and what it is and how we got here. And, hopefully the underlying theme that's also come out of this is that without the Stuarts, we wouldn't be where we're at. So we are very thankful to have them and just the role that they play for us, or for, growers that don't have a home, or, the random relationship that Rob still has with the barrel maker.
Our story is very much
is a part of
tied
them.
into that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, looking at the industry kind of more from a broader perspective, what are the biggest changes you've seen in Oregon wine since kind of your initial entree into it? What do you sort of see coming out of the pandemic and getting back towards normal? What do you see the future looking like?
I think the future is bright, right? There's still a lot of incredible wine to make out of here, and even with all the challenges that are coming with climate change and just growth of the industry in general and those pains that it could cause, folks around here are pretty resilient and will be able to to kind of work through those changes.
Yeah, and the pandemic just probably was just one more data point of how we are resilient, and that you can still figure out how to innovate and still make harvest work and still make the grapes do what they need to do. I think it's just certainly it'll be a mark for our culture, but at the same time, I think it created some strength for the industry.
Yeah, but the biggest change, at least I see in the last 10 years, is probably just that growth.
Yeah.
And transition from first generation to second generation, and how everyone's kind of taking that on in different ways.
Yeah.
That'll definitely set the tone for the next 50 years or so.
Yeah.
David Alzheim and the Sokolblassers and the Erats, they've all set this path and are still continuing to kind of be those people who point you in the right direction. So, we're moving that way for sure. It's just continuing to move that way. That growth creates a lot of opportunity. That's one of the things I think I can do in my role at our Stuart is, if I can grow our business more, that means more people can be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
That original list of, a dozen wineries I got from Miguel, a lot of them were owner, operator, winemaker. There's not a lot of opportunity in those places to get to a place like I've gotten to now. So, that growth opens more possibilities, but it creates a lot of challenges too. we got to go on a couple vineyard tours with our Stuart team the other day and had lunch with Vivian Weber, who we've known forever. And she's talking about how, when she first moved on that hill, it was like, a dozen people. She lived in, Dickie Ruth's cabin for a while they were building up their vineyard.
Her use of the word cabin was not...
Cabin sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was glorified.
It was probably a little less than that.
Yeah, no, but just to hear Vivian talk about just... that's a lunch I won't forget. That was just neat to hear her talk about what she's seen in her, over 40 years of being involved in the industry, and, to have our just barely 10 years involved in it.
Yeah, but then, her neighbors now go from that to more kind of absentee owners and
what that
really
looks
more
like.
of a focused, bigger business side of the industry. And that's, I think that's a natural inevitability. It's just, that's how, as more recognition comes, more people come, more dollars come, there's gonna be a need and a space for those kind of wines. And I just hope that it creates a space still for some of the smaller experimentation. And fortunately, I think folks who gravitate towards this industry, specifically in Oregon, will find a way to carve out that space, because again, doing something small, doing something interesting is valued around here, in food, in wine, in beer, in agriculture, and any of that kind of stuff.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, very much so. Curious, you talk about the growth being, obviously the growth in the last 10 years being one of the main things you've noticed. How has it manifested itself in the industry? What have you seen about people in the industry, or about the styles in the industry that have changed? And do you foresee that continuing as you look ahead?
Yeah, I think that this will kind of stay on its trajectory, right? Trends like Pinot Gris kind of falling out of production and Adelsheim completely stopping making it because there's really no place to sell it. Chardonnay picking up, like those kind of trends, those more market-driven trends as opposed to the experimentation of what works best here. I think that will continue, and maybe that's not the best thing for the industry, but again, it creates more revenue to then be able to hopefully do some of that experimentation. That growth allows some of these first generation folks to have a place to off-ramp and sell their wineries, sell their brands, if they didn't have a second generation to go down to. So that's also a good thing. They've put a lot of years into building that brand, and unless there's someone to pass it down to or to sell it to, then that just kind of goes away, right? And some of those bigger companies can keep that brand going. And the nice thing is the growth, at least that I have seen, has really kept some of those brand identities as whole as they could be, moving into a bigger structure, right? It's like, Lynn Penerash is still at Penerash, right, and that wine still tastes like what it tasted like before. It just now has a bigger outlet, bigger market. So my hope is that kind of growth will continue. If it's going to get bigger, Oregon is built on small sort of stories, and without that, I'm afraid that it changes what is unique about this place, and then does it have the same value?
Yeah.
Well, what about for the two of you as you look ahead to the future? What's coming next for your work and for Joyful Noise? What are you hoping for, and what does the future look like?
Oh, we're gonna sell some more wine.
Yeah, some more wine.
Yeah, no, it's always been a very kind of organic, natural growth. So as new opportunities pop up, try to take advantage of them and see if there's a place for them. Again, like making some Pinot Gris. I think there's a world in which that's something that we can actually put out there and tell a story with, and have something relevant to say. I don't anticipate us getting huge and building out a beautiful steel and glass sort of winery and having a full-time tasting room or any of those things, right?
No. This is, we're somewhere in between a glorified hobby and having this be a real job.
Yeah, no, we're lucky that this doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
full-time sustain us sort of
Exactly.
thing, so we can experiment with it. And
We enjoy the organic part of it. We enjoy, taking a couple of nights out of a month to sit down and talk about, well, should we do something? Should we not do something? So I think that can, when you ask the question, what do you see for the future of, I don't know, that's next week's plan. I don't, we're not there yet. It makes us sound a little laissez-faire about it, but right now we're just enjoying the process of being a winemaker and having a product that we like and being able to share the story.
Mm-hmm. So if someone were to come to you and want your advice or words of wisdom on getting into the Oregon wine industry or perhaps starting their own small brand, what would you tell them?
Oh.
I defer to you. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm a part of this.
I mean, I've been lucky to have enough opportunities to try a little bit of everything. So, I mean, unless you're coming into it knowing exactly what you want to do, just be open and willing to kind of try it all. So again, I know vineyard work necessarily isn't for me. It's fun, but doing that every day, not ideal. I get a little tired too quick. Working in a tasting room is a fun experience to see a bunch of people, but again, I found out that wasn't necessarily like my best.
No, but in
place.
doing all of those things, it also, as we have tried to develop our business, it has helped you understand more about the pushes and pulls of things, because you have done a vineyard work, you have done a tasting room, you have done sales, and now as well as the production work. So I think,
for sure.
Part of it is if someone wants to get into the industry, make sure you at least try everything, not just different kinds of wine, but different parts of the infrastructure. Because again, it gives you a better sense of what it is you're actually getting yourself into.
Right. And then education in wine is good. I mean, that sets a foundation for what you're doing. But at the end of the day, if you were passionate enough and willing to spend the time, again, like cobbling together part-time gigs and working events as you can and meeting other people, like it'll get you in there. There's still enough space and hopefully more being created that there's opportunity there. It's working through those opportunities and trying to figure out what best fits you, and then secondly, what is the best fit for a winery out there that you can put yourself into.
Right. That's all the questions that I have for the two of you. Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have? Anything we didn't cover here today that we should have covered?
No, I think that's pretty holistic.
That's us. We're holistic. Well, thank you both so much for your time, for your stories, for sharing your space with us here today.
Of course.
And we'll go ahead and let you off the hook.
Cool. Thank you.